Welcome to the Impact Ripple podcast, the go-to source for hiring and leadership made simple, doable, and fun for visionary female business owners. I'm your host, Ashley Cox, author, certified HR expert, and founder of Sprout HR. And I believe that you don't have to change who you are to be a great leader because you already are one. Join me as we kiss uncertainty and overwhelm goodbye and say hello to the tools and support you need to grow a profitable, sustainable, impactful team with more confidence and ease. On today's episode, I have Carla Titus joining me as part of our May Money Month series, which you can find all the episodes in the series linked in our show notes. Carla is the owner of Wealth and Worth Within, where she is a finance expert with over 15 years of combined corporate financial planning, analysis, strategy, and online business experience. She provides fractional CFO services and financial consulting to business owners looking to grow their businesses profitably. And you know, we love that around here. Carla is on an absolute mission to empower business owners to achieve financial clarity and peace of mind so they can get back to doing what they love and experience more of the freedom they set out to have when starting their business. In this episode, Carla shares about what it means to demystify your numbers so that you can make more informed financial decisions, especially when hiring. She also talks about the 4 main numbers you need to be looking at in your business so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Carla and I also have some great conversation around planning for the cost of hiring and all of the things that you need to consider, including starting small when hiring your team. But my favorite part of the conversation is where we talk about paying yourself as the business owner, because we're usually the last team member to be paid, and we're paid the least frequently. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that part of today's conversation. Now, here's my conversation with Carla Titus. Hey there, and welcome to the Impact Ripple, Carla. I'm so excited to have you joining me today as part of our Money Month series. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
As we've been talking about in our Money Month series so far, finances are a huge part of hiring a team and often the scariest part. And one of the questions or one of the concerns that tends to come up a lot with business owners that I've seen is around how to protect their business financially when they're thinking about hiring that first person or when they're growing their team substantially. So that's exactly what Carla and I are here to talk about today. And let me tell you what, we have a jam-packed episode for you. I can't wait. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So I've already introduced you, as you know, Carla, in the intro. So I want you to just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be the financial expert that you are today.
Yeah, so I actually started, my mom is an accountant, so it just kind of runs in the family. I knew I didn't want to be an accountant though, so I decided to go for something in business, right? And what attracted me to finance was that I really like money. I don't know about you, but I like to make it. I like to keep it. I like to save it. I like to invest it and spend it for fun things. And I was really good at math. So it almost felt like it just fit. And I decided to go after a finance degree. So I have an undergrad in finance. And then I did 10 years of corporate finance as well. And then I started consulting, honestly, out of curiosity. Like it happened that I had a friend that was connecting me to a business owner locally that needed some support at the time. And it was a women-owned business. They didn't really have the financial education or knowledge or expertise, but they were running a business for a while. And they were feeling like it wasn't going as well as it could be. So they asked me if I could, volunteer some time. So I did. And I learned so much about how little business owners know about finances, which is crazy to think about because it is such an important aspect of doing business well. But not everybody dedicates the time to be an expert in it or even know enough. We go into business to do what we love, not to manage money per se, though we need to be able to do so and have enough knowledge to defend ourselves and ask the right questions. And so in helping with that, I realized that not everybody knew what I knew and that it was probably helpful for me to educate other business owners and help guide them through what are the aspects of finances that they should be paying attention to, focusing on, and being intentional about. And that's when I started to offer my services, and people were absolutely crazy about it, signing up for it. And I was like, oh, this is something we can do. And this is great because I get to, meet my passion with the need of a business owner, offer some value. But we always start with education first. Like, we love to lead with education. I'm happy to tell you all the things and all the ways that you can do this yourself. You don't necessarily have to hire us, but one day maybe you will need a CFO, or maybe you'll need a finance expert in your corner, and you'll think of us because we were able to help you and meet you where your need was at through education that was free and accessible. And so we're really big on that as a core value, and making sure that business owners, are met where they're at on their financial needs.
I love all of this. And I love, before we hit record on this episode, Carla and I were talking about values and how it was really important that we are kind of, related or associated with a similar values standpoint. And when she shared that one of their values was leading with education, I felt that in my soul. And so, I feel like that's something that a lot of businesses don't lead with. So what are the ways that you lead with education? Give me some examples of things or resources that people could say, go to your website or go to your social media, and things that they could find there and start kind of DIYing it until they're ready and able to work with someone like you.
Yeah, we have a blog post with several resources that talk about different topics around aspects of managing your business finances, where to get started, how to do the bare basics, separate your personal and business bank accounts, all the way to how do you do financial planning projections and, start thinking about hiring a team and planning for that. A lot around forecasting and forward looking, because what I find a lot is business owners are stuck in the present and the past. And a lot of the work they're doing is in the present and the past, but they're not really thinking, how can I change the trajectory of my business to cause a different result going forward by being intentional about my decisions and how I make them. And that's where we really play our role as finance experts, to help guide that business to the new outcome we want to see. So the blog is one of the great resources we have available. We have a newsletter where we send out interviews like this, where we've been in, other podcasts, and we share resources and financial knowledge for free. Our social media presence is all about free education and content. We love to have people just follow us and make sure that they're staying connected to videos and conversations that we're doing around topics that are relevant, around, tax time, bookkeeping, CFO services, and like just overall planning of your business finances on how to become more proactive and intentional about it. And then we also do a lot of workshops for other people's audiences. So if people are looking for someone to come speak about finances for their community, we love to do those. We want to make it accessible, and then let people come to us for that content for free first, and then decide if we're the right time and the right reasons to hire a CFO. They'll think of us and, maybe retain us as their CFO at some point.
So many wonderful places to find the tools and the resources that businesses need, honestly, to understand their numbers. And I know something that you and I talked about was, the importance of demystifying numbers in business to make informed financial decisions. So I'd love for us to talk a little bit about that. Tell me, what do you mean when you say that, demystifying your numbers to make informed financial decisions? And why is that important, especially when it comes to hiring employees?
So I find that a lot of business owners don't even start by looking at their numbers because they're scared of it, or they want to shy away from it, or they just really don't enjoy it, which is totally okay, right? We don't want you to spend hours and hours looking at your numbers and not really understanding what's happening, but you need to know enough about what's going on in your business financially in order to be able to make those informed decisions. And by creating a baseline, starting where you're at, no judgment. This is not about judging whether your business is good or bad, profitable or not. It's just a starting point. And I want you to see it as such. And it does not mean that you're a failure as a business owner if it doesn't look great like you expected, but we can't set goals to improve on it. But we can improve on something if we don't know where we're starting. So first, looking at the core set of numbers, and there are really only 4 areas of your business you should be managing and operating consistently on a monthly basis. And that is what are your revenues, income, or sales? They're all the same terminology, right? So top line, what's coming in, what money's coming into our bank account? How many sales do you make in a given month? What are your cost of goods if you have businesses that are not service-based, that have products or goods that you're selling? Then you would have some manufacturing costs or materials that you're purchasing. So those cost of goods sold. And then if you're a service-based business, you'll just have operating expenses. Sometimes you have direct labor to offer the services that you're providing by hiring more team, and that will be categorized as cost of service. And the reason we make a distinction from operating expenses is because cost of service is directly related to being able to generate that revenue. So without those people, without you paying those people in your team, you wouldn't be able to collect that revenue. Therefore, we want to understand what are the margins on our offers after we pay those people, not before we pay those people. And sometimes people, business owners are not very clear on that. So we want to make sure that you have that breakdown. And then operating expenses is just everything that it takes to run a business, from buying a microphone to do a podcast, from like subscriptions monthly, from, hiring an HR consultant, from, hiring costs like the platform where you post a job post, or where you're consulting with an HR consultant to go through a hiring process, the time it takes you to review resumes for candidates, all the things that go into hiring, all the way through onboarding, ideally an employee. You need to make sure they're accounted for in the cost of running the business. And at the end of the day, there's got to be something left, right? Hopefully you're paying yourself in that line, because that's an important value of ours. Like, we want our business owners to get paid from their business, so they don't rescind their business and end up quitting because it's so hard and they're not getting paid. And then also there should be allocating for their taxes, of course, because, the certain things in life, right? Death and taxes, unfortunately. And so we want to make sure we're not like overlooking our tax bill quarterly. And then there should be something left at the end of the day, a profit that you have available to reinvest back in the business, or to pay yourself a draw and be able to benefit more from the business and create some personal wealth. And so I want to make sure that business owners are not making this complicated. I don't want you to spend hours upon hours trying to figure out what's going on in your business. Just look at revenue, cost of goods sold or services, operating expenses, and your net profit, and just clearly understand what's happening there.
Yeah. So much value. I took like a million notes while you were talking, Carla. And I think the thing that I really want to zero in on, because all of that was brilliant. And it was super simple. I think, that's the part. We like to make things overly complicated sometimes. And really, at the end of the day, it gets to be simple, right? But the thing I would really love to zero in on and talk a little bit more about are all of those costs that are associated with hiring and the work that the people do once they are hired, and how that factors into the way that you set yourself up for financial success. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that cost of services and how to look at the work that's being done, even if it's not a direct revenue generating role? So thinking about, if I hire a salesperson, their job is literally to bring more money into the business. But if I hire an administrative assistant or somebody that's working behind the scenes, so to say, on kind of the operations side of the business, that's not necessarily a revenue generating role, but it can be a revenue contributing role. Can you talk to us a little bit about the differences in those and what people can be thinking about as they're starting to hire these types of individuals into their businesses?
Yeah. So before you go off and just hire, which is what a lot of people just do, right? They're like, let's post a job post and then let's just hope and pray we find the right person. And then maybe you need to define what that role is going to be doing. What are performance metrics? How are they going to contribute to the bottom line of the business, either directly or indirectly? And what I mean by that is, like sales roles that contribute directly to generating revenue. That's a clear path on ROI, return on investment. But for those administrative roles, what you're getting back is actually time and sometimes even energy back, because they're dealing with the administrative burden of your business, and you no longer have to deplete your energy or your time to respond to those customers that maybe are unhappy or that are having an issue. They can handle that on your behalf. But if you're not clear what the role is first, and how do you measure performance or return on investment, the benefit you'll get from hiring that employee, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And then you're going to be very unhappy when the person does not perform to your expectations because you never told them what they were. And they're also not contributing to the bottom line of the business in direct or indirect ways. And so measuring that, how many hours saved is this? Okay, now Ashley's not going to be responding to customer emails anymore. That's 10 hours of a week that you were saving in time. And it's very easy to track, right? Because you can monitor and see, okay, what work went away because we hired this person and delegated out. And then it's also going to allow you to start thinking about how and what are the roles that you need in order to grow to that next level in business. And I think that people don't take enough time to plan out when and how they're going to bring these people, the timeline on when these people and roles are going to show up. And they try to just hire for everything all at once. And they don't realize that that's actually going to hinder their profitability in the short term. Maybe they'll make it up in the long term if they're lucky that every single hire was a good hire. And this is something that we do not talk enough about. There's people that you hired that just were not the right fit. And a month later, you're going to have to get rid of them, right? Or you're going to have to, part ways because it's just not the right fit for the company or for the role that you were hiring. And you don't get to know that until they start working. And it's a cost to the business. And I don't think we properly planned for that because we think every hire is going to work out and that we are going to bring 5 more people and we're going to all of a sudden hit $1 million in revenue, right? Because we hired those 5 people. And that is not the reality of doing business.
Yeah. No, there's so much more that goes into it, right? There's strategy, there's forecasting, there's planning ahead. There's, something I talk about a lot and that we did a previous podcast episode on was aligning your people plan with your business plan. Who do you need? When do you need them? And how do we grow in a really strategic, mindful, and intentional way? And I know you mentioned intentional earlier, in the beginning of our conversation. And so to kind of bring it back around to that, that's what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about being really intentional, thinking through what this person is going to add to the business, what it's going to give to you as the business owner. And something I think is so important is when you hire this admin onto your team and you get those 10 hours back a week of not having to respond to emails, what are you, business owner, going to do with those 10 hours to make them profitable for you, right?
Unfortunately, I've seen times where that happens and then they're back to 10 hours of replace admin work elsewhere. And that's just not a great ROI. We want you to be growing your business and using those 10 hours more effectively to tackle the things that only you, CEO, you can do. No one else can in the company, like setting the vision, planning intentionally, looking forward strategically. And having that hiring plan takes the guessing work out of it because you should outline the cost of every hire and know when you're going to have to afford them. And remember, every hire needs some time to get up to speed and be able to provide results. Sometimes that can take 1, 2, sometimes even 3 months, depending on how role the might be on complexity. So allowing for you to save up in advance, knowing that you will have someone that needs some time to get up to speed. Now, if they're up to speed in a month, awesome. Now you just save yourself some money because you didn't have to use those reserves. And at the end of the day, when we're hiring someone, we need to make sure we have enough runway and that we're not being surprised by the cost of hiring someone, that we've properly planned into our budget and allocation that we will be supporting one more person and that person in turn will give us back the time, the energy, or the money in some way as the benefit for hiring them.
Yeah. So I think this would be a perfect place to kind of talk about that financial planning, that the projections that we need to be thinking about. How do we know how much it costs to hire? How do we plan for that? How do we make sure that we've got that runway and those reserves that are going to protect the momentum that we've built in business? Because I think that's one of the things that's most scary is I don't want to just throw money at this and then waste a bunch of money and time and energy and not get a return on it and not see that return, whether it's financial, time, energy, mental space, time to take a nap, whatever that ROI looks like for each individual business. So talk to us about financial planning and projections. What do we need to know?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is make an informed guess on what we think the future might look like. And listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not like great at this. I'm not perfect at it, right? But I might be better at it because I've done it a few more times than most people. So I know what to look for when we're trying to set goals in the future. And we say, oh, we're going to hire within 5 days. I might say, it might take you a little longer to find the right person and go through the process. So I'm testing for what we think might be reality. And maybe we say we will allocate 30 days out, because by the time we go through the hiring process and we vet all the candidates and we go through interviews, we might be 30 days out from starting day. And that's more realistic to budget and allocate that way and forecast in the future than a 5-day time period. And, maybe you do hire within 5 days because you got lucky and you're really good at hiring. And that's okay. We're just going to have to dip into our cash reserves, and hopefully you have some. And if you don't, we should start building some, because those opportunities will show up. And we want to make sure we're ready to take advantage of those, even if we haven't budgeted or allocated for that and we had to pull in the date of hire. You're okay to do so because you're covered. Yeah. But as you're working your plan, things will change. Sometimes you'll hire later. Maybe you won't find a person for 90 days, and that's okay. You just have 2 months of savings that you had planned for to bring on someone. Maybe you found someone that was part-time instead of full-time, and you decided to allocate half of your budget to that. Now you still have the other half that you can reallocate to a different role. So it's not about being perfect, but it's about outlining what is the steps in the path we're going to take in the next few months as we're building out the team, and make sure that financially we're able to afford it. And what I mean by afford it is you saved up maybe 2-3 months of your salary. Maybe you have enough profitability that you have room in the profit to be able to bring in an additional person that in turn will help you grow revenue, then bring you back that profitability in a few months. And that's the thing that people are not thinking about, how it connects to the overall picture and your financial plan for the business. Understanding where are those roles going to contribute and how they're going to contribute, and just write it down. Because I think a lot of time we have it in our heads. We know it's going to happen. We're like, yeah, we're clear on our hiring plan. And then we go execute it and we're like completely lost. We're like, forgot what we thought about 3 months ago. We have no idea how many. We brought in a role that we thought we were going to hire in September. We brought it in April. Like all these things are going to happen because that's how business is, right? The reality of business is not linear. And I want you to know that if in your plan you put September for hiring the role, now you're moving into April, now you need to push an April hire to September to compensate for that change. But if we didn't have it in writing and we don't know what our plan is, how will we reconcile that? And that's the whole point of proactive financial planning, is to ensure that you know what is your GPS map telling you. Take a right turn, take a left turn, stop for gas. Instead of us just being like, there's the destination, good luck, and like make sure you don't get into a wreck or like crash into something because you weren't paying attention. And that's the whole point of financial planning. Think of it as your GPS that's routing you towards the goal.
Yes, exactly. And, the businesses that we serve, and I know we talked about this before the show, multi-6-figure, 7-figure and beyond businesses, we know that you have been doing a lot of these things along the way with your marketing budget, with your ad spend, with your, if you have cost of goods sold, you've been looking at how do I get the most, the best deal or the best, opportunity for our business. And so you're not novices, right? Or, the listeners are definitely not new to this, but hiring is a whole different ballgame, and it requires looking at things a little bit differently than in the past. And some of that is a really sort of nebulous look at things that I don't even know. What am I supposed to be looking at? So that's why I really love this conversation today, because getting down into like the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty details of the GPS, of the map instructions here to say, hey, this is the left turn, this is the right turn. There's a fork in the road up ahead. You could go this way or that way. Which would you like to choose? Gives us the opportunity to make those informed decisions like you talked about, be more proactive, be more strategic in the way that we approach our hiring instead of, trying to put a bullet or a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, right? We talked about that a little bit before the show as well. Was, sometimes we get to that point of, desperation. I've waited too long to hire. Now I really need just a warm body, and I'm going to hire the first person that applies and plug them into this job that I kind of sort of don't really know what it's supposed to be. And we're going to make it up as we go along. I promise you that is a surefire way for disaster. You're going to be derailed, off the road, out of the map. You're not even going to be going on this trip, right? You're going to be in the hospital with like a broken leg and an arm and, bandage over your head, right?
It's so distracting, and it really disrupts the business that you're currently running, because it's taking you away, it's taking that mental bandwidth and energy that we talked about. But also, like, why not bring in an expert if you need some support to help guide the way, to make it less overwhelming? And yes, it's going to cost you money, but at the end, you're going to get a plan outlined for you on how to do this best instead of trying to guess your way through fixing the issue, especially if you struggle with hiring in the past. I always recommend that maybe sometimes, some people are better at hiring than others and have a more robust process. And don't shy away from bringing some additional help as needed, consulting hours. Like it doesn't have to be anything huge like retaining services, but just reaching out for support and expertise. And maybe that one conversation will save you 20 hours of work on the back end because now you know how to do it right and how to target the right people to bring the right people to your business. And then you're not having to be in a situation where you hire desperately and a month later you're having to move on from that person because they weren't the right fit. That costs the business even more money and headaches than just not hiring, than waiting to hire the right person.
Yeah. Right now, the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, which is an organization that I'm certified through and that I do a lot of subject matter expert volunteer work and things for, they are saying that right now in 2023, when you're listening to this in 2023, that it is costing on average between 6 and 9 months of an employee's annual salary when you have to replace them. So that's a big chunk of money, right?
It is. Could you imagine how much you could have done with that money to repurpose into your business growth and make sure you have, again, hiring, just take your time. I know it's painful. Like, listen, we're not here telling you, just wait, it's fine, everything. Like you're still doing like a million things and you're still having to keep the business running. We get it. You're wearing like 10 hats that you do not want or, care to. Yeah. It's okay to take your time. And if you need to, maybe resource to a contractor in the meantime. Like that's the thing I think a lot of people overlook is you could grow with contractors in the meantime temporarily while you're searching for your absolute hire that's a perfect fit that will be with you for years to come. So don't rush into just trying to solve the problem by hiring the wrong person. Like bring in the contractor temporarily part-time, whatever hours needed, and then replace them with a full-time hire and make that clear in your, collaboration with them that it's going to be only a temporary role. And most contractors are happy because that's what they're looking for is temporary work or sometimes just being part of the team. Maybe you decide to keep them on in addition to the hire you've made. Check your financial plan first, right? And making sure that you have, enough runway to have enough for them to do both of the roles. But don't overlook that temporary, because I think that at times we get so fixated on we have to have employees and we have to have this and this is how it needs to look. There's so many different ways to make it work.
Oh, so many different ways. And actually in episode 13, this season, we talked about growing your team with intention and that can look so different for every different type of business. That can look like contractors. It can look like temporary workers, part-time, full-time employees. There's just so many beautiful different ways that we can grow our business so that you can get the support that you need in smaller amounts. If you can't just go straight out and hire a full-time employee or a team of 10 full-time employees right out of the gate, which trust me is not realistic for most businesses, right? Most businesses cannot go out and just hire a full team of employees, which it would be nice if we could, because then we could delegate a whole bunch of stuff. But it's okay to start small. It's okay to start slow. It's okay to take your time. And I would much rather you hire one person for 10 hours a week much sooner than wait until you're at that point of desperation and trying to hire a full-time employee, because that's a much bigger commitment.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we offer services as a fractional CFO firm. It's because we understand that there is not a need yet to have a full-time CFO in your executive leadership team, and that one day that will come. But in the meantime, you still need access to expertise at that level that is guiding and directing the finances of the business. So we make it affordable, but also tapping into that high level and quality support that you're looking for a fraction of the cost. And so it's something that we want people to start considering is you don't have to hire full time in order to still get the benefits of having the support that you're needing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something you mentioned earlier, Carla, that I want to revisit a little bit is you mentioned cash reserves. And I know that this is something that comes up a lot with our clients, as far as, how much should I be paying myself? How much should I be paying my team? How much should I have in savings to support all of these things? So let's talk a little bit about cash reserves. And I'd love to hear your philosophy on that and your thoughts and suggestions for our listeners.
Yeah, so we're really big on having cash in the bank, paying yourself, and always having profit. Like those are like our main things that we want business
I'm
owners
here
to be
for it.
doing. And if you haven't started yet, because I think we're all on the journey, right? So don't beat yourself up. Again, this is not about
Mhm.
judging,
Yeah.
where you're at. It's really like understanding where you're at so you can then make a change to where you're going.
Mm.
And cash reserves is a hard one for those people that especially like to spend. And so I find it comes naturally for those savers out there, those of
Mhm.
you who know and appreciate having money just sitting around for the sake of peace of mind.
Mhm.
And, we always get asked like how much? And my answer is always, it depends on how much do you need to sleep at night and feel
Mhm.
comfortable running your business from that peace of mind that you want to have for yourself as a business owner. And that amount is going to vary. Some people are more risk takers. They want to have only 2 weeks, and kind
Mhm.
of just waiting it out and hoping that everything clears out. And some people are like, no, I need a year or
Yeah.
like 3 months. So
Mhm.
I start with, what do you as a business owner first need to feel confident, comfortable, and have the peace of mind to operate from a position of power and
Mhm.
feel confident in your decision making? So let's start with that. Second, like cash runway allows you to tap into any opportunities that come your way that you might not have thought of, but because you had that cash reserves, now you're able to invest in those things that come up that will give you ROI, that will help you accelerate the growth of your business. But without that cash reserve, maybe you won't be able to tap into those
Mhm.
opportunities because we don't want to leverage debt unless we absolutely have to. And there should be a plan for debt leveraging as well. So, if you're going to go that route, absolutely, we believe in leveraging debt. We just have to make
Mhm.
sure there's a plan because I see too many times we just spend for the sake of spending and never pay it off, or like end up more in debt and didn't get the outcomes we expected. And then we're just
Mhm.
farther behind. So
Yeah.
make sure you're clear on what your, risk tolerance is from a cash or debt perspective. And then we always say, if you have people on payroll, we would love for you to know that you can afford your team for maybe 1 or 2 months.
Mhm.
Remember what happened during COVID? People were
Yes.
surprised. They had to shift their
Mhm.
business. It was completely unexpected. Who would have known that in our lifetime we were going to have to deal with something
Right?
like that? That will not be the last time this happens.
Mm.
And I just want to make it really clear, just because it happened once doesn't mean it won't happen again. And it's not to operate out of fear. It's just to operate out of being prepared
Mhm.
and make sure that you have enough runway for 1 or 2 months of your team's
Mhm.
salary, including yourself, because you should be able to pay yourself as well. And ensure that you give yourself time to respond to whatever is happening. It's not about whether or not the business is going to make it or we're going to go under. It's really to give you time to think about, okay, now what? What do we do?
Mhm.
How do we do it? And gives you time to not only employ the strategy, but allow for the strategy to work before you
Yes.
run out of cash. Because businesses don't go out of business because they're bad businesses. They go out of business because they run out of money. And we don't
Yes.
want you to be in that situation.
Yes, such brilliant points, Carla. I think, the pandemic really just taught us a lot about unexpected situations and being prepared as small business owners or not being prepared. And I think one of the things that nobody, even Fortune 25 companies, the people that have hordes and hordes of people that are doing financial planning and projections and contingency planning, nobody had a worldwide pandemic on their contingency plan, right?
Trust me, I did not guess that one. I wasn't
Holy
that good
moly.
at forecasting.
Yeah, did not have that on our bingo card, okay? So if you're still beating yourself up because you weren't planned or prepared for that, please don't. Nobody was. Nobody knew that was going to happen. And now we can take that experience and we can learn from it and we can say, what would have been helpful in that situation? And exactly like Carla sharing, having 1, 2, I prefer 3 months. I'm a little less risk adverse. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to have 6 months, but but like having that cash reserve, making sure that you've got your payroll covered, your owner's pay covered, your bills, what are the things that if everything fell apart, you could cover these particular financial responsibilities. And to me, my people are always first. I will get rid of services, I will get rid of systems, I will get rid of tools and online things, but I want to take care of my people first.
Yeah. And you think something that business owners don't do often is like scenario planning. And what we like to do
Mm,
is like, what is your bare bone budgets that if everything else had to go away and you only
mm,
had the minimum to operate and run your business, what does that budget look like and that
yeah.
allocation? Because you'll realize it's actually a lot less than what you're currently spending, I'm pretty sure. And you have a lot of nice to haves and want to haves,
Yeah.
and especially during an economic downturn, you want to be assessing, am I getting the value from all the things that I'm paying for? And if you're
Mhm.
not, it's time to go do that right now. And you do not need to pull the trigger on anything. If things are good, business is growing, it's great. But you need to be prepared that if you want to go to that bare bone budgets, you're not caught by surprise, that you've actually done the work already to think about that. And you would know, here's the 10 things that would go because we do not
Mhm.
need them. They're nice to have. And that we can survive and thrive to then turn things around and wait enough time for us to pick up business again. And then you can add them back. People don't realize how many things can they pause, delay, or cancel. And those are things that we
Mm.
always work with clients on. It's like, it's not an all or nothing. You could pause for
Yeah.
2 months. You can delay hiring for 2 weeks if you need
Mhm.
to, right? If the cash resources are not there. And then you could also just get rid of things and bring them back later when they
Mhm.
actually need to serve you a purpose again.
Mhm.
And we're not being critical enough with our allocation. We're just freely spending at times because we're in the day to day and we forget to check
Mhm.
that sometimes just going through that exercise is helpful, and you'll see how much money you save that you didn't even realize was coming out of your bank account until someone mentioned it. And so it's a good exercise to go through on your own because you know what your business needs and you know what are things that you're paying for that you're probably not using, like a lot of those subscriptions. I see that often. And that you could always restart at a later
Mhm.
time when you're actually going to use them and need them. So just make sure that you're going through that, especially during these times, because we want to preserve as much cash as possible. We're big advocates of applying for a line of credit when you do not need it. Because guess what? When you're in trouble financially and you need access to
Mhm.
leverage debt, banks don't like that. So don't
Mhm.
wait until then. Do it from a position of strength. Do it now when your business is thriving and is financially stable and secure.
Mhm.
Go access those, have them on the sidelines. You don't have to use them just because you
Mhm.
have them. There might be a maintenance fee a year that you have to pay for having it, but it's worth it for the peace of mind. So you don't have to have as much cash reserves if that's something that you would want to, incorporate into your business plan.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that. It's such great advice, and it's so simple and it's practical and it's something that's available to everyone. Especially I love the idea of what can you pause, what can you delay, what can you cancel. That just is such a good practice to probably get into 2 or 3 times a year, honestly. Like, am I just bleeding money in places where I'm not using this service? I'm not using this subscription. I mean, even just thinking about your personal life, how many subscriptions do
Yes.
we have that we actually aren't using or aren't adding value to our life in meaningful ways?
We're really good at justifying those, right? Like,
Yes.
unfortunately, we have like all the streaming services, and we're like, we can't get rid of one because we have one show here and one show there, and the kids watch this, and it's always something, right?
Yes.
But like, you can make those hard trade-offs, especially in a time where financially maybe you don't feel very secure and you want to build up those cash reserves.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a time to assess. And we're really big on business owners should be leveraging their business to generate personal wealth.
Yes.
My thought is the business takes so much out of you. You're working so hard, you need to get something that's better than just working a job, honestly. Like, that's my
Mhm.
take on it. Like, you can disagree with
Yes.
me if you like, but to me it's like it's got to be worth it.
Yeah.
Not only pay your salary but also allow you and your family to create some personal wealth to be able to save for retirement, be able to purchase whatever size home you want,
Mhm.
whatever extracurricular activities you need for the children, vacations and fun things that maybe it's on your financial plan personally, and your business should be able to contribute to those goals as well, because we work so hard already. Like, we need to be able to reward ourselves for the hard work.
I do not disagree with any of that at all.
Unfortunately, a lot of
Yeah.
business owners don't even pay themselves, right? So we can even
Yes.
start there and
Mhm.
start to address the fact that that becomes an issue because it's not talked about. Nobody's sharing strategies on how. And I'm going to tell
Mhm.
you, it's really straightforward. It might not be easy, but it's
Mhm.
straightforward, meaning you can start paying yourself $100 a week. If your
Yes.
business is just starting to generate small amounts, and maybe 100 is too much, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 50, you pick the number, right? We're not
Mhm.
here to judge again, but that's your starting point. And then what I want you to do is set a goal to maybe double that, or 50% increase in the next month or two. What can you do to generate more sales? And business owners are spending so much time on things that are not generating them revenue. We call them revenue generating activities, and they're not doing enough of that. That moves the needle in the business to grow their revenue so they can have space and room to pay themselves. So back to paying yourself, you start with 100 a week or 100 a month. It doesn't matter the amount. It's more about the discipline, the habit, and the behavior that we're trying to instate that your business has to provide for you. And then you grow it over time. And then, maybe it takes you 2 years to get to pay yourself $5,000 a month and replace, what your income used to be in the past, or maybe 10,000 or whatever the number is for you. But you got to set those goals intentionally, and you got to keep moving towards making progress to getting to those goals as your business grows.
Yes. And if you think, wow, okay, this show is geared toward business owners who are making multiple 6 figures, 7 figures and beyond, why are we still talking about paying ourselves? It's because it's a problem, and it's a problem that we're seeing with our clients. It's a problem that I know, it feels uncomfortable to talk about. It feels scary to talk about. And when you think, oh my gosh, somebody has a 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure business, you don't think that they're not paying themselves. But the reality can be that it's a real slippery slope. The more money you make, a lot of times, the more money you're spending, the more team you're adding, the more benefits, the more, time off, and all of these things cost money. And so we have to be really smart. We have to, forecast and plan and project for those things, so that way we can protect that owner's pay, so that you're getting value out of the business that you've built with your blood, sweat, and tears. Right, Carla?
Yeah, you should be your first priority. And don't get yourself thinking that because you make $1 million a year, you pay yourself. They call me all the time to come fix that for them, right? Because they never prioritize themselves in the first place. And now it's harder to do so because they've built their business with all these expenses that are taken away from it. And so it takes a drastic reshuffle to be able to make room for the owner to now be able to pay themselves in that size of business. But it doesn't matter the size of business if it really is about what you're keeping at the end of the day in profits after paying your taxes and paying yourselves. And we don't talk enough about that. We're all over here in the revenue line, like how sexy hot sales are, $1 million business. And I see $1 million business that are also losing $1 million a year in expenses. So they're break even. I don't care to have that business. I'd rather have a business that makes 200,000 a year and I get to keep, 150 of that. It's a much better business for me, even though it's smaller. You would think, oh, that business is not that good. That business is 10 times better than the $1 million business that's breaking even.
Yes. So if you're thinking, my goal is $1 million business, let's maybe readjust our priorities and talk about what your profit goal is instead, right? Like, that's much sexier.
Yeah, we want to make sure you understand, what are you paying yourself? What is your tax liability? And then what is the profit left that your business can support and sustain before you start adding all the other stuff that is, again, nice to have, or like that you maybe don't necessarily need. And as you're bringing team on, you got to keep reassessing that, because it's going to shift.
Yes. Yes. And it's going to also be something that we want to think about from how we're paying our team. The thing right now that's really stuck in my craw is how abominable the pay rates are for people who are doing full-time jobs. They're having to cobble together 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And so if I'm bringing somebody onto my team, and if we're helping clients bring people into their teams, we're always making sure, what is a fair, livable wage? Not what is minimum wage, because minimum wage is I can go down a whole rabbit hole there. But, what's a fair, livable wage for this role, for these responsibilities, for the number of hours that we're asking this person to work? And so we need to build in that healthy salary for each of those team members. And it may not be $10 or $15 an hour like you're thinking.
Also, we don't have to forget or overlook the fact that with the type of businesses we have, we're able to give people a lot of freedom and flexibility and remote benefits that other big companies are not able to.
Yes.
And so we need to account for that sometimes, that maybe the pay is not exactly what they would have gotten, like a 6-figure salary, maybe it's half as much, but they get to have freedom on controlling their schedule. They get to work remotely. They get to, work with a team that knows how to work remotely. Yeah. And some of the other aspects of working in a smaller business that is an advantage that we completely overlook as small business owners, and need to be able to you communicate that to the candidates and say, hey, if you're working at a big company, you'd probably be putting in 40 hours minimum. And here we're giving you the flexibility to work 15 or 20 so you could fit your life around your work instead of the other way around. So it's things that we need to highlight and not forget that as small business owners, we're able to do.
Yes, 100%. Like we only work 4 days at Sprout HR, right? We take Fridays off. It's a 32-ish hour work week. Some weeks it's less, some weeks it might be a little more. You might work an extended Wednesday or, something, but for the most part, I mean, it's right around an average of 32 hours a week, and it's a full-time salary. So that's an opportunity. Like you said, maybe you could go to a corporate job and make 6 figures. Maybe you could make, 80,000, and this job might pay 60, or it might pay 40, or it might pay, whatever your range is. But like you said, the benefits, the perks, the freedom, the flexibility, the opportunities that you have can look so different. And I think that is something, like you said, we just don't talk about this enough. We need to have these conversations more. And I'm so glad that we got to have that conversation together today, because you and I are on the same wavelength, my friend.
Love it.
So we are at the end of our episode, and it is time for everyone's favorite segment. I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. Everyone's favorite segment called Imagine the Impact. And this is where I'm going to ask you, Carla, to help paint the vision for the kind of impact our listeners could create through one final thought, a takeaway, an action item from our conversation today, or something new that you're like, hey, listen, we didn't get to talk about this and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I thought about this question because that ripple effect or impact that we can make is really start, especially women business owners. I don't think we get enough education around finances, just in general in life. Yes. And I want to have more women business owners just have a little bit of knowledge and a little bit more understanding of what their money can do for them, give them opportunities, freedom, and control of what they can do with their time, how they want to show up, and where do they want to work. And we can't do that unless we start learning more about money. And it might feel scary at first. And with the right person and the right guidance, I think it can feel really fun and empowering. And I would love to have more women business owners feel empowered by their money, what they've created in their business, and how they can make an impact, not just for their lives, but for the community around them by giving back more. Because we do know that when women have money, they give back more, they impact positively. And we just need to have more women business owners doing that type of work so that we can show what's possible and hire other people that need that flexibility in their life, that need those remote jobs, especially working mothers and others who just want to be part of their child's life and they don't get to if they work a normal job, but they do when you create jobs in your business. So we need you to thrive and grow your businesses so that others can also thrive and give back to their families and their communities.
And that is today's mic drop moment. I love it. We are 100% aligned there, Carla. It's absolutely what we're here on this earth to do, is to help women create thriving, sustainable, profitable businesses so that we can create opportunities for others who maybe aren't interested in starting a business, but still want that radically different experience than what most have had in corporate. Oh my gosh. So imagine the impact, listeners, that you could have on your business, on the community, and in the world with a little financial empowerment. So Carla, tell us, where is the best place for folks to connect with you? Because I know they're going to want to connect with you after this amazing conversation. And how can they learn more and about your services?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, wealthworthwithin.com. We have a blog section with free resources that we make available to everyone. So if you want to just get a little bit of knowledge, start educating yourself and empower, go read through our blog. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter. We send out, some of these interviews and some resources available for business owners to take advantage of. There's also a free budgeting video that you can access through that. So I would love to get started on your money journey. If you've been shying away or felt scared or overwhelmed, let us help you. We're happy to, guide the way and just be an accessible resource. And if nothing else, follow us on social media at Wealth Worth Within. We're very active on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a lot of videos and free content that we put out there for business owners to start to dive into it. Don't be shy. Ask a question in the comments. We love to interact with our audience. And If you're ready to hire a CFO, you can book a call with us on our website at wealthworthwithin.com/contact, and just set up a free call for us to have a conversation on how we can best support you. Otherwise, we're currently booking annual budget planning and about to switch over to mid-year reviews. So you can find that on our website, wealthworthwithin.com/projections, if you're interested.
Perfect. And we will put all of those links down in the show notes for you so that you can find them super easy. Oh my gosh, Carla, this has been absolutely fantastic. What a joy just to have you on the show today. What a great conversation. I know that our listeners are just going to have so much value and so many takeaways. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your brilliance.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you, dear leader, for tuning into our conversation today. I hope that you found it inspiring. I hope that you found it comforting, because money can be a little scary. And I think that Carla's approach is so beautiful and so comforting. And as always, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with and for you on your leadership journey.